How is it possible that a little machine with a rated operating capacity of 700 pounds just made a lift of 1,580 pounds? This is the public weigh scale ticket, and it shows the lift that it just made of 1,580 pounds. 1,580. And this particular machine has a down pressure of 1,900 pounds. Well, let's take a look at it and see if we can explain it. We have two identical machines, one with wheels on the back and one without. Notice how a bobcat kind of bobs along as it turns. Notice the tire tracks that it's leaving in its wake. This is why you lose a lot of your tire life. Trying to dig with a regular bobcat is almost impossible. There's almost no down pressure. Notice the front wheel's right off the ground as it's trying to lift, which only leaves the back wheels for pushing power. It's bobbing along, the wheels are leaving the ground, it's trying its best to dig, but it's just not going to happen. Because it's pivoting on the back wheels, all four wheels will come off the ground if he's pushing down. This allows it to dig. Notice how the entire weight of the machine is being forced into the ground. This increases the digging force substantially. The pivot point is actually the back wheels. Without the stabilizer wheels down, the bobcat is like any other bobcat and will bounce around and will have no force at all to be able to dig. But once the wheels are down, it's a whole nother ball game. The operator puts all six wheels on the ground level, and then he can continue to push very effectively, very smooth. Today's new bobcats put their weights, extra weights, behind the back wheels. And this has a great advantage. 100 pounds on the back over the pivot point of the front wheels gives you an extra 100 pounds of lift capability. The more weight you put on the back, the less down pressure you have on the front. Penny's Super Bobcat puts the weight twice as far back, which actually doubles the lifting power. 100 at the back gives you 200 at the front. 50% of the entire weight of the machine is used for pushing down, more down pressure than even a large track machine. Stability is very important. So take a look at this bump. This is a 6-inch bump that the driver has left. And what we're going to do is spin around, take a look at it, and because the back axle pivots in the center, the wheels travel independently up and down. They go over the bump, and the driver doesn't even notice it. This is how it manages to level the bobcat at all times. Without the wheels down, the Super Bobcat acts like a regular bobcat, and it bobs along and does everything else that a little bobcat will do, and it'll get into these tight places, but you're going to pay for it with all the bobbing and bouncing around that you have to do. And this is about as far as he can go into the pile. But if he lifts the bobcat up and puts all six wheels on the ground, now he can continue and increase his digging force by about 35%. Once the operator has a full load, he wants to make sure that the back wheels are completely off the ground to give him maximum maneuverability. Watch how the tires just roll over top of the 6-inch bump, and there's no tire life. This extends the life of the tire significantly. He can also tip the bucket, and with all this extra down pressure, notice how the four wheels are digging in at exactly the same time. Notice the bucket as it digs into the soil. And one last thing you want to really notice is that it will entirely pick up the load and leave nothing behind. If you're not carrying a load, the proper way to go up a hill, especially if it's a steep hill with a bobcat, is to go up backwards. This keeps the unit from flipping over backwards. It would be suicide to go up the other way. We're going to turn around and go down the other side. Notice how we keep the front end of the machine pointing towards the low side. So we're going to come up, well, a little high there. As we go down, we're just going to keep the front end lower so we don't tip over. And again, like I said, it would be suicide to go down backwards. It'll smooth it right out. You wouldn't do this with a regular Bobcat. But with the Super Bobcat, it just runs over the hill like it wasn't even there. You can go over forwards, you can go over backwards, and it's a very safe machine. We'll take this one over forwards, just so that you can see, and watch the wheels smoothing it out. So it just drives right over. We'll turn it around, do that one more time, and again, you can see the back wheels come right off the ground as it smoothens out the hill. You would not want to go down backwards, but we'll do it with the Super Bobcat just to show you there's no problem. One way or the other way makes no difference. This is a very safe and stable machine. In this example, we're just showing with an empty bucket how unstable a little Bobcat can be. And if it wasn't an experienced operator, when you lift that loader right to the top, you could easily flip the machine over backwards. And many people have done this. Notice also that the bucket, even though it's tipped all the way down, can only get to a certain point, and the load can't even come out of the bucket. This can be a very dangerous situation for a novice driver. But what you really want to pay attention to is how stable this machine is as it moves forwards and backwards. We're going to throw the loader right to the top. We're going to put everything back as far as we can, and then we'll move forward and backwards at a pretty good clip so that you can see it's very, very stable and has no opportunity at all to flip over. Watch how this handles it. Nice and solid. Going nowhere. Very safe. Very safe, very effective. And because of the extra weight on the back, the load that it can carry is almost double at a height. The maneuverability of this machine is amazing, and I can't resist just playing around sometimes. I love it. The ability to spread the load over 6 wheels is really nice for grading. The length of the entire unit from front to back is over 12 feet, and that makes leveling a real breeze when it's loading. Now this ramp is probably close to 30 degrees, and the little Bobcat's going to try to go up, but as long as he tries to go up forwards, just not going to make it. He'll either flip over or you'll have to try to do something else. Let's try it backwards. There we go. Notice how it bounces around. And going backwards, not really a problem. It'll go right up there. That's nice. When you're coming down, just be careful. Go slow. And you should be okay. Nice. Now, let's try it with the Super Bobcat and notice the difference. It'll go up this hill like it's not even there. Makes it pretty quick to load. Penny's Super Bobcat, forwards or backwards, there's really no difference. If you watch the back wheels, they come right off the ground as it goes up and over a hill. And it works that way when it's working too. It's really awesome. This is a 12-foot trailer. So, if we want to get the whole thing in, we just lift the stabilizers. The wheels will turn around, and we'll put them down. And you're done. This 12-foot trailer. Here it comes. Watch the back wheels of the Bobcat. It just smoothens it right out. The maneuverability of Penny's Super Bobcat is absolutely amazing, and because it doesn't tear up the turf, it doesn't wear out the tires either. Can your Bobcat do this? If you get stuck, just lift it right out of the ground. Not a problem. Put something underneath it and away you go again. Example of loading with down pressure. Notice how the bucket just goes right into the pile. Notice how this heavy stumping machine has to be pulled up over a hill over 2 feet high, and any other Bobcat would fall flat on their face trying to do this backwards. The back wheels would come right off the ground. But Penny's Super Bobcat with the reversed weight will just pull this up over the hill with no problem. Notice how easily the Super Bobcat pulls this heavy machine around, even though the machine is heavier than the Bobcat itself. Notice how the operator doesn't bob around. He stays completely level at all times. The 6-wheel stability is truly amazing. Let's just talk about how to move logs with Penny's Super Bobcat. Turning a standard skid steer requires a huge amount of energy. The energy required for the chains that drive the wheels, plus the bearings, because the wheels are skidding on the pavement as it turns. The heavier the load, the harder it is. The super skid steer merely lifts the back wheels off the ground. Now it turns like a regular zero turn. There's no tire wear, there's no bearing wear. The life of your bearings, the life of your tires is increased substantially. You can see as the skid steer turns around, it doesn't leave a lot of pavement, it doesn't leave a lot of rubber on the pavement. This is huge when it comes to tire life. Okay, right now you can hear the engine idling, and we're going to go make some maneuvers to explain how Penny's Super Skid Steer is able to get 35 to 50% better fuel economy. Fuel economy relates to money. In this little demonstration, we're going to leave Bobcat at an idle. Now, even at an idle, you can see that the hydraulics work fine, as long as you don't find anything. It takes a huge amount of effort just moving the Bobcat back and forth. It takes even more effort to try to make it turn. We have lots of power available to do just that. But for this demonstration, we're going to leave the skid steer at an idle just to show you how much effort it takes to maneuver. Once the wheels are down, notice how easily the skid steer moves around. And this is only at an idle. It can move one way, it can move the other way. Very simply, with almost no effort. Notice also that there's no skid marks on the pavement. The tires will last an awful long time because they're not being torn off. One of the first things that we noticed when we took this super skid steer out to do some actual work in the field, that when we came in, the fuel consumption was almost half of what we normally use. And we started to wonder, how is that possible?
I rest my case.
We've been finding out that working with the Super Bobcat, you really don't have to use full power to maneuver, even if you're carrying large loads. We've been running with half throttle. We've been maneuvering with half throttle, and it makes it nice, it makes it quieter, and it works every bit as good as a skid steer running at full throttle. That alone will save a lot of fuel. But the fact that it can move around so easily, that is just humongous. Well, here's a typical example. Let's say we're doing a little work around this yard and we need to go up and over, and let's see what happens here. Not too hard to figure. We're not going anywhere. Well, let's try the super skid steer. The advantages of being able to put the back wheels down, it's just amazing. When you get into a bind or you need some extra help, notice how the wheels lifted right off the ground makes a huge difference. How does that relate to the real world? Well, let's take a look at that. This is a typical little hill you might be working on, and these are the problems that you face in the real world. Well, how do I get up it? Well, there's no problem if you got a super skid steer. It goes up and over these hills like it wasn't even there. It makes a huge difference if you're loading uphill and you got the super skid steer. Well, you wouldn't do this with a regular skid steer, but with the super skid steer, it just handles it like the hill wasn't even there. Well done. Notice how stable the machine is as it runs around.